Morning, just got to the allotment. Somebody's making a valiant effort with the horse manure, but still stinks and it's still a huge pile.
So it's completely blocking the path and it's way too fresh to put on anything. I don't know what they're using it for. But this is where the pile was to the other day. So about, what, a fifth of it's gone? Kids are here. Can you tell? What a morning. What a morning. It's just the birds, obviously the kids. That sounded like somebody in their death throes, but I think they're a bit melodramatic this morning. Yeah, just gorgeous. I've got so much to do. The sun's out. I'm Billy 2 jumpers today and I think I've made an error because it's hot. So I think I might have to strip a jumper off and get the girlies some treats. Job number 1 is peas this morning. Got to make the pea frames. Oh God, it's so beautiful. Do I just sit and have a cup of coffee first and just enjoy it? Do I do that first? That's the question. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I've actually bought a cup with me, special cup. You know when Johanna and I were at the bath, I suppose you'd call it? Sorry, Robin just landed right next to you. The baths at Bath. Yeah, we bought a cup. So you know, if you remember, there's like the bit at the front of the temple to Sulis Minerva. You've got the medallion of the man's face, but it's not a man. It's like a mixture between. They said it was kind of a mixture between Athena, Neptune, and a Gorgon. So it's got a bit of everything in there, basically. A complete hybrid. But anyway, they were selling cups with that on. Hang on. Got it wrapped in the spare jumper this morning because I did think I might be a little overheated. Yeah, look. You see, that's that chap from the muck barn. So I'm gonna have my cup of coffee in this and sit and watch the robins and chill out this morning. There's a lot of robins around. Wow. Hello. Peep, peep, peep. Okay, coffee had. That was worth doing. I'm pleased I started that way. I need to make the pea canes, like the supports for the peas to grow up that I planted last week. But all my canes are just scattered. You know, I was doing stuff with the compost bins up here. Well, hang on, it's a bit windy, sorry. Well, up this end is where I normally store all the pea canes and they're in the back of the compost heap. Obviously the compost heaps are all a bit all over the place at the moment. I'm just going to shield you in case you're getting wind damage, sorry. Yeah, so my pea canes and all the canes that I normally use are kind of scattered all over the place, and in order to sort them out I need to sort the compost bins out. So I'm going to start with that and just do a little bit of a fuss around there and get things, oh, it's a wasp, get things in order, see what we've got, and then I'll get the canes down there. That is my plan of action to start with. There are so many things flying around. Can you see them? It's like bees and wasps and just everything. It's lovely. Right, compost. It feels so much like spring this morning, I cannot tell you. I know that probably we're going to get a cold snap again. It's not like I'm thinking we've hit summer, but God, is it a nice feeling. So first thing I need to do, I've got all these, which are my old raspberry canes, which is what I'm going to make the main structure of the peas for, but they're all kind of tucked behind here. And this is the old centre of the previous compost bins we had. And what I want to do eventually is to turn it into a fence at the side, but it's all got a bit compacted around here and a lot of the compost hasn't been cleared. By hasn't been cleared, I mean I haven't cleared it. But I just want to get this one out of the way and stacked at the back so that we've got easier access and I can start really getting the canes and things sorted at this end. So this one is eventually going to go against this wall like this. So the peas are currently underneath this EnviroMesh box. They don't need to be under there. It was just, I don't know if you remember when I planted them out, it was just before the storm. So I needed to give them a bit of wind protection, and EnviroMesh, if it's quite taut, makes really good wind protection. So they've survived perfectly well. And this is just going to shift up by about, 2 foot and go over the onions. And no, it's not onions, is it? I've got shallots in here and Ducote garlic. So that's just going to go over there now because we're kind of getting to the time when the allium leaf miner is lurking. So I don't want that. And the EnviroMesh stops the allium leaf miner, so that's perfect. Quite miraculously, with a bit of unexpected forethought, when I planted these out, I made sure that they all fitted underneath this box. So I know they're all going to fit. So I mentioned before I'm using my old raspberry canes that I've cut down. I have autumn fruiting raspberries, so at the end of the year you just cut the whole lot off and I keep hold of them and then use them for my peas the next year. You do have to be a bit careful when using raspberry canes that you don't just cut them off and put them in the ground around your peas, because they do have a tendency to just start rooting and then you have a combo raspberry pea mix, and that's not ideal. So these have been just left all over winter and they have got very little danger of shooting. I'm doing this slightly differently this year. As you know, I'm doing the gutter pea style this year, and normally I would have built this kind of structure before I sowed the peas, soaked the peas so they've just started sprouting, and then I would sow them really densely underneath the structure. And obviously sliding the peas out of the guttering is difficult enough anyway. I don't need to be trying to do it around a load of cane. The peas have been in for about 2 weeks maybe, just under a bit of protection, so they've really settled in, and now I'm putting a bit of a structure around them. I use a mixture of quite strong raspberry canes as like the main structure going along the centre, and then there is the smaller ones kind of intertwined, and then just string them together. There's no reason to use all these little odds and ends of string. It's just that this is what the tomatoes were tied up with last year, and so I've got loads of odd bits of string around, so I'm just kind of using it up where I can rather than having to throw it away. Another advantage of using the raspberry canes over something like bamboo canes is that they've got all the little, the prickles on them, which means that they hold the string in exactly where you put it, whereas on bamboo it can sort of slide up and down and it gets looser over the season. With the raspberry canes it tends to stay exactly where you put it. What do you think, girlies? Look nice? Does it look nice? Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. So what's next? I'm so tempted to just get like the soft beds out and just lie down. It is so gorgeous up here. So you know that I straightened up the tree cabbages last week. I'm going to do the same thing for the 9-star broccolis because they are looking a bit wibbly wobbly, so I'm going to do the same thing there. Go and do a bit of straightening, I think. So these are my 4 9-star broccolis, which is like a sprouting perennial cauliflower type shebang. This is my first year growing them, so I haven't actually tasted the outcome of them yet, but the plants look amazing. A couple of them are really strong in the centre, and then I have a couple which have flopped, which is just, you know, brassicas tend to do that because they're so top heavy. But I need to get them to stand up straight, not just for themselves because brassicas like to be really well anchored, but also because particularly the one that's closest to the camera now is flopping so that it's leaning against the netting and the pigeons are getting hold of it. So it's got quite a lot of pigeon damage despite having netting over the top. And talking of netting, the 2 cages that I've got here, so the 2 square ones made out of the plastic tubing, I'm going to swap the legs over on them and then make a new netting for this one. But I'm going to get these tied up and straightened first, and then I'm going to think about a spot of lunch. These plants went in about May last year, and I got them off Scott Little on Instagram as cuttings. And it's called 9-star because it's a perennial sort of white broccoli, and it supposedly gives you 9 heads from each plant. So considering my lack of success with a normal cauliflower, I've got really high hopes for this one. So the same thing with any of these perennial brassicas, you've got to be really careful when you're harvesting to just completely harvest all the flowers, because if they set seed, they stop being perennial and that's the end of their lives. So it's going to be some vigilant harvesting of these chaps, hopefully in not too long a time. Anyway, yeah, starving. Got to find something to eat. Right, pasta boiling. I'm going to go and find some veg to go in my pasta soup. Ooh, what are we going to have? I think there's going to have to be a bit of purple sprouting broccoli, because just look at the beauty that this is. Purple sprouting broccoli is just one of the most beautiful things, and this is right next to where I've just been standing up the 9-star, so I've been eyeing it up. Yeah, I've got to have a few of these in there. Actually, these have really come into flower while I've been away with Johanna, and so Mum and Dad have had a picking of this and I haven't had any yet this year, so pretty excited. I love the way brassicas have that really like dusky purple, and then the sort of like the glaucous grey leaves. They're just, look at that. Is there anything prettier in the garden? See what we can find in the polytunnel. One of the things I do need to do before it's time to kind of plant the summer stuff in here is I'm going to have to do some repairs on the doors and windows of this. The structure of the whole thing itself is absolutely fine, but I actually put these doors and windows in as like a temporary measure right at the beginning because I hadn't actually worked out what I was going to do with the doors. And this worked really well, so I'm going to stick with this plan and just remake what I've already got. But inside we have got the Mizuna has gone to flower, so I'm just going to pick off the flower heads of that and throw that in my lunch. Pretty. Once again, gorgeous flowers. And then there is the green wave mustard, which if you eat this raw, it's pretty fiery. It goes straight up the back of your nose. But cooked, it's got much more mellow, like quite a rich flavour, and it's proving to be an absolute favourite this year. This is the first year that I've really got the timing right on it. A couple of years I've sown it too late and it kind of just doesn't do much, and I wasn't very impressed, but this year I really got in there early, and although it sort of sat not doing very much over the winter in here, we have got this fantastic clump of it now for this kind of gap in spring where there's not a lot going on. I'm also going to throw in some of this Lisette parsley, which is looking pretty nice. I really need to give it a water in here actually. It is quite dry. Beautiful. Can't tell you how much I'd love to just be picking a massive, great, huge, beautiful sweet tomato to go with these. Soon though, soon. Sowing them this week. Oregano is just starting to sprout. This is just a normal outside one. It hasn't had any protection. And although the top's looking a bit rough, it's got some really lovely fresh growth coming underneath. So general cooking method is chuck it all in. So all I've got is just cooked pasta. I always keep some little tiny pasta shapes up here, or like you've seen before, like instant noodles or something like that just doesn't take a great deal of time to cook. If you're using big pasta, sometimes it just takes a bit too long to cook for the poor old gas stove. So just little tiny pasta shapes and a bit of either bouillon or chicken stock or something like that. And then throw in your veg and herbs, and there's not much better, especially when you've got purple sprouting like that. God, that was good. So I have swapped the legs round on here. So this is now a tall, long cage, covers pretty much the whole bed. How I had it before, I just had a single piece of netting thrown over the whole lot, but now it's too big for anything I've got. And I have these strips of net are 1.20 m wide. So they'll go round the edge of this and over the top, but I can't just throw it over. So I'm going to attach it to the frame with a bit of string. So I'm just going to stitch it on. I'm not going to attach it to the bottom other than with pegs. So it's going to be attached around the top and then pegged at the bottom, so that to access inside you just lift it up. The frame itself is tall enough that we don't need to lift the whole thing off or take the netting entirely off to pick what's underneath. So I'm just going to attach this by stitching it around the top and then making a top for it. The netting I'm using is bird netting, soft bird netting. I'm not using butterfly netting, even though these are brassicas and we do have like the danger of cabbage white butterflies. I always find that when I use the butterfly netting, although I use it for a lot of things because I really like it as a netting anyway, I don't really find it enormously effective on the butterfly front, because we always have to rescue the butterflies from underneath it, because if you've got any gap or whatever, they still get in. So I'm just going to go for this one, which is a kind of an easier netting to handle, and I will just pick the caterpillars off myself manually and just keep a really close eye out for them. I'm going to more effort than I normally would with a temporary cage for this one, because like I said, this has got the 9-star in it, so they're going to be in here for like 6 or so years. And also the tree cabbage that I transplanted is at the front here, so that's going to be in there for a while. And then I have 2 Taunton Dean kales on the way that are going to go in here as well, so it's going to be a whole perennial bed. So having a cage which is going to stick around for a while is worthwhile. I am stitching it with this incredibly high-tech needle, i.e. a plant label. Works really well, goes through the holes of the bird netting, no problem. That's another reason that I'm not using the butterfly netting, because it's just that bit smaller. I would need to use something that was kind of less easy than this. The bird netting is just so much easier. Starting on one corner, I'm just going to loop it round and see where we go. I'm not starting with a whole length of string, because otherwise it just gets tangled and a nightmare. So I just, as I go along, I'll just add more string to the front of it. So I'm back to where I started. I'm going to attach the 2 ends, and then instead of just stitching the 2 bits of netting together, I'm going to go actually around the pole on this end, just to kind of keep things a bit more in shape. Because it's just going to be a spiral, I can slide it back up the pole when I need to lift the netting. It's not going to be attached. I'm going to loop it at the bottom and put a pin through it to keep it down. I'm going to do exactly the same thing to put the top on, stretch it from one end to the other, cut it to size, and then stitch it along the edges to keep it all in place. And once I've got this sorted, I'm going to reattach the shorter legs to the smaller square and just throw a piece of netting over that to protect what's left of the Cavallonero. I'm not going to do this method on that because it's a smaller cage. A piece of netting will just throw straight over. And I'm going to stop filming this now because I believe you've seen enough stitching. You get the drift. Apologies. It's actually quite late now. It's like, what time is it? 4:30, coming on 5 o'clock. And I have been working away, having the most marvellous time, and I haven't been filming it. It was kind of, I stopped filming because I was just going to be messing around doing something that I didn't need to film. And then I really like Audible, you know, like listening to audiobooks, and I'm listening to this murder mystery. It got really exciting. And my next job, I needed to tie up the broad beans and all that kind of stuff, and I just really wanted to listen to it. Because I film on my phone, I couldn't listen and film. So I'm afraid the filming fell by the wayside, because I've just had the most lovely day. Just pottering, not kind of fussing about things. The sun's actually just gone behind a cloud, but up until now it has been beautiful. Anyway, so instead of filming me doing it, I'm just going to have to show you what I've done. Show and tell, because I was listening to murder mystery. And this is what I've been doing, tying in the broad beans. These are my autumn sown broad beans. I planted them in 6 rows in kind of 2, 2 and 2, so I could string them together just like this. Last year I was really slack with the tying in because we had a cold frost. I thought they had died and I left them. Turns out they were going to be fine, but they turned into this absolute sprawling mass of broad bean catastrophe, and it made picking them and pollination and everything just so much more difficult. So I am on it this year. I've got them tied in, and hopefully they are going to be a magic crop of broad beans. I still haven't got my spring sown ones in yet though. I am running very late. I also finished off the 2 frames, so you can see that one's got its roof on now, and this one is just pegged down. A temporary chap for the last of the Cavallonero. Mum has also arrived. She was out having coffee this morning with a friend. Got so much done this morning. It was really nice. I have left catastrophe in my wake everywhere, so I'm going to go and have a bit of a traipse around, pick up all of the stuff that I've left all over the place, and get ready to head off. Suddenly a bit chill actually. I have to go and get my double jumpers back on again. It's funny, like this time of year when the moment the sun goes in, the temperature drops. Right, I'm just going to pick some things for dinner. It's the next thing that's on my list. Field bean tops and leeks. What I didn't have in quality this year, I certainly made up for in quantity with the leeks. None of them have been particularly enormous, but we've had so many of them that it hasn't really mattered. We've just been using smaller leeks. These are going to be a gratin. I'm going to char grill them and then make a white sauce and bake them in the oven with a bit of Parmesan cheese. Can't go wrong with that. Ditto with the Enviromesh cover that I moved off the peas and onto the shallots and garlic this morning. Leeks, just like all the other alliums, really do need to be covered in this area because of the dreaded allium leaf miner. Field bean tops, beautiful. Right, it is definitely home time and we're going somewhere exciting tomorrow. Good morning, good morning. We are on our way back up to town again this morning, folks, but we are going to Angel Islington this time to the garden press event, which is a bit of a general garden media expo type thing. I went to the garden press event the first time just at the beginning of 2020, like almost days before the lockdown happened. So we'll see what it's like this time and how much it's changed. Just at North Sheen Station here, looking out across one of the biggest allotments in our area. This is Manor Road Allotments. It's huge. They have got so many allotments on that site. It's quite good standing at this platform actually, because you can have a right nosy at what everyone's up to. Right, okay, we're off to Islington. Okay, we're at Angel. First things first, we need some breakfast. Yeah, and I'm meeting some bloke from Essex there, I think. It's been absolutely ages since I've been around here. I used to work just round the corner, and I know that there's a breakfast club down here somewhere. We've got a table for this morning. I haven't been to this particular one before, but the one in Clapham, don't get run over, Jessie. Excellent. The one in Clapham is fantastic. They just do a really fine breakfast. So I am looking forward to that. This is it. painted orange, fantastic. Right, and I'm also really looking forward to a cup of coffee. Just wait for the man himself. I can see him is just, oh, well, he's walking away from me currently, which wasn't what I was expecting, but he's gonna realise in a second. Hold your horses, hold your horses. He's slowing, he's stopping, he's turning. Well, hey! Hello, hello. Look at the state of that.
You're talking about the state of that or the state of that?
Oh, that was so good, but we are both officially defeated. Have a look at this. Don't bring a girl flowers, bring her Taunton Dean kale cuttings, and she's a happy rabbit. Okay, stage 1 is complete. Breakfast has been had. We're now going to head to the design centre and pick up our passes.
What I really like is
So, plot 38 it is for the day, I suppose. Okay, let's see what's what. Pretty standard industry expo type thing. Be interesting to see who's here. Ah, Malcourse. So this is that compost that I've been using that Johanna got hold of for me. Really nice compost. It's nice to see them here actually. I didn't realise that they did so many different types of soil. They've got with added John Ennis 1, 2 and 3. Actually, I must pick up their brochure and see if they have stockist anywhere near me, so Johanna doesn't have to keep lugging it back from Ripley. But look at all these. Every type of soil you could want. And all completely peat-free. Actually, it's so nice to see so much peat-free going on here. This is the sponsor of the whole thing, like their main sponsor, Real Soil Company. Really like their branding. Never seen it for sale though, so I'll have to look out for that one. So 2 years ago when I was here, I started talking to a garden centre group. They'd just taken on a whole load of new sites, and obviously it was just before lockdown hit. So I'm really hoping they're going to be here. They are! This was them, British Garden Centres. And look at that. I'm pleased to say they survived lockdown, everything's fine, but look at the number of garden centres that they have across the UK. It is amazing. And this one here is Osterley, the one that's closest to me, and I'm not going to talk much about it because I'm hoping to make a trip out there with you pretty sharpish. But I'm really chuffed that they did well because I've been thinking about them for a year, wondering what happened, because to take on that many sites like right before lockdown could have been a disaster, but I'm pleased to say it wasn't. Oh, holy smoke, the glorious Nilwakia here. I can't keep away from them at the moment. Absolutely crazy about my hori hori. I am so happy with it. It is perfect in every way. As is all the rest of their tools, I'm sorry to say, because I want every single one of them. I mean, look at these. Look at these. I mean, look at that. Even that toolbox is gorgeous. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so stay away from the secateurs, Jessie. Actually, I say that because I am so going back to Chiltern Street before the month is out to get some secateurs. Like, it's just going to happen. I just have to accept it. The only problem is deciding which ones, because I cannot, unfortunately, just have one of every single pair, which would be the ideal, obviously. Okay, let's go find Essex. Oh, okay, he's in the bar. Wait, found him. And he is with Jem. Jem is the mother cooker. She has the most fantastic blog that's like full of recipes of things to do with vegetables and what you grow yourself. So I'll put a link for that underneath because it's just brilliant. Right, I'm going to have a quick half before we go back in and see what else is up there. Now there's veg pod. Really not keen on veg pod. Really not keen on there. Although, to be fair, that is about the only bit of actual greenery I've seen all day. Got some broad beans in there. This is cute. So this is a kid's book, but it's got a story where you grow the main character. So in this case it's a lettuce, and the cover is impregnated with lettuce seeds, so you can plant them, and they've got basil and carrots, and that's quite cute. As always, there's some weird stuff up here that's sort of not really relevant, but I really like these. Really nice long-handled tools. And I've just been chatting to the chap, and the connector between the metal and the wood is specially designed to stop the stress snap, which is what happened to my rake the other day. Do you remember? Really handsome tools. This is them, and they've just given me a dibber. What a beautiful little thing. Well, I think it's about time we headed off, to be honest.
Hello, YouTube.
We have had such a lovely day. We bumped into Amy from Chicks and Veg, which was really sweet, and Tom, the drag queen gardener, who's in the middle of this picture. Barely saw him all day because he was being super professional rather than just having a chat. We also bumped into the Beardy gardener, which was amazing, and I will put a link to his project, which is called The Giving Garden, in the description of this video because it's really worth a check out. He's doing something quite amazing. Right, it's escape time. We are off. We're going to go find a pub, obviously. Okay, the time has come. We haven't had any dramatic music for a while, have we? I think this deserves it, so cue the tomato music. Yep, it's tomato time. So I've held off absolutely ages, like way longer than I'm normally capable of on the sowing of the tomatoes, but after last year's absolute nonsense of a year, I just decided no, halfway through March, you can wait it out, it'll be fine. And it's now halfway through March, so we are go. And I'm pretty excited about it. Done a lot of, I don't know if I'd exactly say soul searching, but a lot of thinking about tomatoes this year because I've been sent so many fantastic varieties that I've never tried before from loads of different people, and I really want to give them all a go. And part of the problem is that I already have like a set number of tomatoes that like I just keep expanding slightly each year, but I've got all these new ones, and so I've made what I consider to be a brave decision that actually some of the tomatoes that I've grown year on year on year on year, I'm not growing this year. I'm going to go practically all new. So the tomatoes are kind of falling into three categories this year. Some of them are ones which I've grown before, grown year on year, and I just can't really do without. There's some which I grew for the first time last year, but what with it being such a terrible year, I don't think they were given a fair chance. So I'll be doing them again. And then there's a whole selection of brand new ones to me. So I've kind of got like a 3-phase affair going on at the moment. I'm going to plant them in order in sense of like cherry tomatoes, plum tomatoes, beef tomatoes, and we'll talk about it as we go through. Like I say, I don't have a great deal of space, so I'm only going to sow 3 of each, depending on the pot. Some of them will have 4 just because I don't like having 3 when there's clearly a spot for 4. But I'm not going to sow masses of any of them, and I'm hoping for 2 of each eventually. I'm going to have 1 indoors and 1 outdoors and have a bit of a comparison. Obviously last year we tried to do exactly the same thing. We had 1 in and 1 out for every variety we tried, but the ones outdoors never even got to flowering stage before they got blight really. So let's hope this year's a bit different. Right, first thing I'm going to do is fill up these trays and then we'll start discussing varieties. Just remembered I've got to fill 2 of these pots up as well because so yesterday I wasn't at home. Yesterday I was out, had a bit of a stroll, went out with Sarah actually, and we went up, met her in Waterloo, and we walked up the Thames, went up like Tower Bridge and did a bit of a sightseeing thing actually because the weather was so gorgeous yesterday. But it did mean that I didn't get anything done here, and Alex, if you're watching this, don't hate me, but I still haven't potted up the Taunton Dean kale, so I've got to fill 2. So I've got to fill 2 of these pots as well before I run out of compost because yeah, I've got to get them done. Right, let's crack on with the Taunton Dean kale first because yeah, it's just terrible to have left them in the bag. Come on, chaps, out you come. I did give them some more water. They weren't just like left in there, but yeah, they do deserve a bit of a home. It's not a primula, but yeah. So got my Taunton Dean kales potted up. They're fine, they're safe, they're in the soil. So back to the tomatoes. Okay, let's start with the cherries. I'm doing 5 varieties of cherry tomatoes this year. Garnet, this is one that I've grown before, and I've grown it for about the last 2, so the previous 2 years I've grown it. First time round, so what was that, 2020? Unbelievable tomato. Last year, I mean, it did better than the rest of them. So I think it's definitely earned its place. It is a dark, really, really quite dark cherry. Absolutely delicious. It's not like overwhelmingly sweet like some of the cherries can be. Sometimes cherry tomatoes I find kind of sacrifice flavour for their sugar content, and this one I didn't think did. I just thought it was a brilliant one, so I'm definitely going with this one again. And I've got 2 other repeaters in the cherry tomato category. That is Rosella and Brad's Atomic Grape. Now both of these were really, really nice last year, but it was a pants year, so I'm going to give them another go because they were good last year. I'm hoping it means they're going to be absolutely excellent on a normal year. So that is Rosella, which is like a pinky gold, just a gorgeous, gorgeous cherry tomato. And then there's Brad's Atomic Grape, which I thought was a blinding tomato. I mean, I'd heard a lot about it beforehand, but what I found was the most important thing about it is because they grow black, they're already quite coloured, so it's difficult to tell when they're actually ready. And if you pick them too early, there's just no flavour, they're quite tart, but if you leave them on, if you're really patient, you just see they start to get like a tiny bit of a blushy sort of colour and a bit yellowy, and that, oof, such a beautiful tasting tomato. So it's Garnet, Rosella and Brad's Atomic Grape are the 3 which I've already tried before. And the 2 new ones is Green Doctor. Now I've never grown a green tomato before that's actually intended to be green. I've had a lot of green tomatoes, but not ones that intended to be green or fully green. And this one is a green cherry tomato. Looking forward to that one. And the other one was actually a freebie off the front of a magazine. It's for drying. So it's one of those ones that grows in huge racemes, you know, rather than just a couple, it just is like a waterfall of very small cherries, and it says they're really good for drying. So we're going to try that out this year because we have had a bit of success with drying tomatoes, but not massively. So that's going to be our trial this year. So I'm going to get them in first. Okay, that is the cherry tomatoes in. Bam! 2 plum tomatoes I'm growing. I'm hoping to get some Roma off somebody else that's already growing them on for me. So I'm just doing pink plum, which is one that I grew last year. I grew it 2 years ago, it was great. Last year, don't think it even got to the stage of having a flower before the blight got it. So I'm going to give that one another go. And the other one that I'm doing is black icicle, which I think sounds pretty good. Never grown black icicle before, but I'm kind of guessing what it looks like. Next lot are the kind of the mid-size sort of round tomatoes, and I'm doing a couple of repeats. I'm going to be doing Tigerella again because normally I grow Derby striped, but this year I just forgot to save any seed from it, so I don't have any, and this is about as close as you sort of can get. You know, it's like yellow, or can you see that? Yellow and red stripes, and I've been told they're quite similar in flavour, so I'm going to go for Tigerella. I have got Indigo Apple. This is one I've never grown before, but sounds absolutely gorgeous. Galena is another one of the ones which had its first go last year for me, and although they were really nice, we didn't get a lot of them, so they're having their kind of like second attempt this year. That's Galena. I've also got Sundrop, which is a really nice round, really orangey yellow kind of tomato, just a gorgeous one. And it's quite nice when it's slightly underripe. When they kind of ripen up to a deeper orange colour, they can be a little bit sort of flowery in texture, but when they're a bit underripe, they're really, really delicious. So I'm quite keen on those ones. And the last one in the mid to round category, I sound like this is Crufts or something, is Black Beauty. And I have been watching people grow Black Beauty on Instagram for years and always wanted to give it a go, and this is my year because from what I can see, they're really quite black. They're not just like how a Black Russian is black. they're black. So I'm quite excited about them. Let's go for the big boys. So the category that I am expanding wildly in this year is the big tomatoes. So normally every year I grow Black Russian, a mystery Bulgarian tomato that I have saved seed for, Japanese Black Truffelli. I think that's about it. Sometimes I throw in another one. I've had Waldors in there before. Yeah, but basically that's kind of my bog standard. And I'm gonna still do my Bulgarian tomato, which is just a saved seed. I don't know what variety it is, but we've been growing it for years from a guy who left our allotment about 5 years ago, and we saved seed from his tomatoes. So always going to be growing the Bulgarian. As long as we can keep the seed going, we'll be growing it. And Japanese Black Truffelli is back because I just love it. I think it's just such a beautiful, I love the shape of it as well. It just looks heavy on the plant. I just love it. So yeah, the two tie-overs are those two. Now, one that has fallen by the wayside this year is Black Russian, which, as you'll know, if you watched last year's tomatoes, me raving about it, I love Black Russian. But I do have Black Crim, and I've been told that it's basically the same tomato, and I don't have any seed left for Black Russian. So I'm growing Black Crim this year, and we'll see if I think it's the same tomato. I know people often say that the best tomatoes to make sauce out of are the plum tomatoes, the Roma tomatoes, that sort of thing, but I've got to say, I think that the Black Russians are, Black Russian and the Japanese Truffelli actually, are just, they've got so much flesh to seed ratio, they just make the most wonderful tomato sauce. So yeah, now the next lot are all new and they've all been given to me. So we have got crushed heart tomato, which looks exactly like a heart, you know, it's got a really pointy bottom. It's like the opposite way round to the Black Truffelli, because the Black Truffelli's got a very narrow top and it hangs down. It's got a real like coin purse feel to it. This one's got a very fat top and then goes down to a tapering little bottom like a heart. Excited about that one. Now Johanna grew a heart-shaped one last year, and I can't remember, it might have been ox heart. Can't remember, but yeah, hers was heart-shaped as well. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see growing. Also trying a yellow, proper, true yellow, big fat tomato, pork chop, absolute classic. Never tried it myself though, so looking forward to that one. Apparently it's got a really thin skin and quite a sweet flesh, but not a great deal of acidity. So I'm quite interested to see how that one works out. Next up, Cherokee Purple. Again, never grown this one before. Any of these ones that I'm saying I've never grown before, if you have grown them, give me a review. I'd like to know what I'm getting into. But yeah, Cherokee Purple, one I've heard about for a long time but never had the chance to grow, so that's quite exciting. Just realised all that time, I don't know if I was moving it too fast for you to see, but I'm saying Cherokee Purple, that actually says Ananas Noir. Yeah, I'll go for that one, Cherokee Purple. The other one is Ananas Noir, so Black Pineapple. Just quite excited about that. Another one which I've heard about for years, it's quite a classic tomato and I've never grown it, so equally thrilled about that one. And then we have one which I think has got one of my favourite names ever, Solar Flare. How could you refuse to grow a tomato called Solar Flare? So that, chaps, is my tomatoes for what year is it? 2022. Let's hope it's a better one than 2021, because it was pants, absolute pants. Yeah, that is tomatoes 2022. To vlog 101. What a week. What a week. That day that I spent up at the allotment on my own, I know I didn't record all the things that I needed to record, but I'm very rarely up at the allotment on my own because obviously I'm with mum. And then I would never put the radio on or like listen to my headphones, obviously, when I'm up there with her, because antisocial, and also like you're just chatting and that kind of thing. So it's such a rare occasion to be up there on my own. in the sunshine. It's just warm. Oh God, it was absolute bliss. And there wasn't another person on the allotments, which was really weird, because obviously the sun comes out, particularly at this time of year where everyone's like desperate for sunshine. You just expect there to be loads of people up there, but there wasn't. It was just me, apart from the kids, obviously, and them. All the kids on the other side of the fence, but on my side of the fence it was just me, and it was absolute bliss. But yeah, so had a lovely time at the media event. I got speaking to some quite interesting people, which I'll be kind of like slowly imparting to you as we go, because there's a couple of projects coming up, which is exciting. I'm really looking forward to going to the Osterley Garden Centre. That's going to be amazing. That's going to be really, really interesting. And the end of this month is coming up. So it's my birthday at the end of the month. It's Mother's Day at the end of the month. And then the beginning of next month is our 2-year anniversary on here. So it is all go, go, go. Loads of opportunities and special occasions to buy secateurs for. Maybe. But anyway, chaps, this is a very long video. I'm going to say cheers. Cheers. I really hope that the weather has been as... Oh, one more thing. So I was looking at the weather forecast. We have got, like, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's meant to be pants. We've got like a whole week of sunshine and pretty warm temperatures. Obviously colder at night because no clouds, but it's going to be amazing. Cheers.
It's not big and it's not clever.
No.
Just drink in moderation and look after yourselves.
You're so wise.
I'm so wise.
So wise.
Aren't I? That's why you should follow my YouTube channel.